swing and a drive, left field. It's deep. It's gone. Yes! And it is gone. Yes! It is bedlam at the bank.
Look at the doctor. Yes, he's got it. Here he comes. Way back to me. It is Cleveland slammed up. And the doctor made a sensational play. Hunter in front. The front is he scores! And Giroux's got it. Weston fires. Weston goal! Brady back again. He's got to be 10 and full forward. And he fumbles the football and the Eagles have it.
We welcome you to the Phillies Sports Hour here on Saturday, February 2025. Happy Valentine's Day, or I guess late Valentine's Day. And well, today we get to celebrate the world champion Philadelphia Eagles. It's been a week since I last talked to you. The Eagles didn't win the Super Bowl yet. And here we are. Super Bowl 59 champion Philadelphia Eagles. The parade was yesterday. It was electric. And we're going to talk about the parade. We're going to talk about Super Bowl 59. We're going to talk about the future of the Philadelphia Eagles. And we're unfortunately going to have to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers today. And helping me doing that is Sam Heine. Sam, check it in from sunny Florida. How are you?
Doing great. You know, as you can see, we are Super Bowl champions. By my hat, I was able to get that in. And, you know, that intro you got there, it's pretty nice. But I think you got to add a few more videos to it now after Super Bowl win, maybe a little Coop interception, pick six, Devontae touchdown, something like that, because we got a lot of things to celebrate now and a lot more memories that'll be with us forever from last Sunday. And it's an amazing feeling, you know, been on a high all week.
Yeah, I feel like it finally kind of set in yesterday, standing on the street and watching the buses go by. It was kind of like the real feeling moment. Like, okay, the Eagles won the Super Bowl. This is real. And it hasn't really hit me all week. And finally yesterday, it felt like it kind of hit me a little bit. I also did get one of the hats. I got a hoodie, a shirt, and everything else. I went to Dick's Sunday night at like 11:30, went out and got got some stuff, stood in line. So that was great. But it was really yesterday. It was when it really kind of set in on me. Like the Eagles are Super Bowl champions. And who knows, maybe we'll be back at another parade next year.
Yeah, you know, this team is definitely set up for success here. A lot of young talent on this team, as I know we're going to talk about later, and 2 Super Bowls in 3 years to finally be able to get one done. Obviously, after the disappointment of the Super Bowl 2 years ago, just to be in 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, you know, that doesn't that doesn't happen a lot for just about any team. And the future is very bright. You know, you got a young head coach, young quarterback, young playmakers all around him, and the youngest defense in the NFL. So this is definitely something that we should be hopefully getting used to, and definitely something that we can keep going for the future here, because I don't see them going anywhere.
Yeah, maybe as Doug Peterson once said, a new norm. And he said that at the parade in 2018, that we were going to have a new norm. And nobody's called out anything for the future yesterday, so that was good. But what I do want to talk about the parade, of course. It was, you know, another parade, another one in 7 years. It was a kind of a same weather kind of day. It was sunny. It was cold. It was like, you know, you didn't really feel the cold though because of the excitement, and the sun also helped that out a lot. But I was there. You weren't there, of course. You're in Florida. Makes sense. But I guess it was much warmer watching it there than it was.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So looking back on that 2018 parade and comparing it to this year, there were rumors that there could be more people at this parade than the last parade, and kind of watching it on TV and looking back on that 2018 parade, what difference did you see? Any differences? Did the crowd look any bigger? And what were you kind of noticing?
Yeah, I think nothing will ever compare to the first parade, just because it was such almost like a relief of Eagles fans, where they were just being able to let out so many years, you know, at that point, 52 years of just anger and disappointment, and, you know, any word that you can think of that Eagles fans had endured over those 52 years was just all released, I think, on that one day. So, you know, even looking at some of the speeches, you could just kind of tell that it was just such a big relief from the whole city. So I think nothing will ever compare to that day back in 2018. But I will say, the turnout from what I saw and what I've seen on videos and stuff like that looked pretty amazing. I think one of the biggest things I noticed was a difference was I saw a lot of the players like really interacting with the fans. And I think that was also a big theme in their speeches too, was just how much they love the fan base. And, Landon Dickerson said, I haven't played an away game my whole bleeping career. So I think that was just like such a big theme throughout this Super Bowl run and this parade. You saw the videos of Nolan Smith kidnapping that little kid walking down the parkway there where they had to give him back, and Saquon taking pictures with the little girl on her birthday, and so many people that he was taking pictures with, and even Jalen, who's somebody who's not really, you can tell that these things kind of make him a little bit uncomfortable, but he was even out there high-fiving fans. And I think that was just the biggest thing that I took away from the parade yesterday and all the speeches and stuff, was just how appreciative they were towards the fan base and how interactive they were with the fan base. And it makes so many memories for so many people that they'll have for life. I've seen so many pictures on social media, videos on TikTok, that kind of thing, of just having the players look at you and being able to just touch Saquon Barkley and how much it means to so many people. So I really love that they were out and doing that yesterday.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of them were off the buses. Like, not everyone was like on the bus at a certain time, especially when they got to the parkway. Saw Jake Elliott kicking field goals with beers, and Jalen Hurts walking down the street holding the little bus. Like, it was just like everyone. Yeah. It was really like a parade where they were walking. Like, it was like a real, like, kind of like a one of those parades. Not everyone on the float. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And you look back at that 2018 parade. It was the first championship for the Eagles since 1960, 57 years at that point. And what else you got? You got, no championship since 2008. So at that point, it was 10 years and all those kind of things. And that was just special, that 2018 team. They weren't loaded with talent on offense. Their defense was, of course, great. But that was just a special team and a special ride where this parade felt more of a celebration and a coming together. Like, this was just a party yesterday, where that first one was kind of, as you said, a relief and kind of just it just was special because it was the first one. I was only 10 years old, so I don't fully remember it, but I just, remember it was like the first time I ever been at something like that. It was just like a special feeling, and you can never compare anything to the first one. Like, you never compare any Eagles Super Bowl to that 2018 Super Bowl. For those who were alive, you'll never compare the 2008 World Series to the 1980 World Series because it was the first one after so many years of not getting one. And that was really my biggest thing, is that one was special. This one was just a celebration.
Yeah, and I think, football in Philadelphia is, the great equalizer. Everyone is an Eagles fan. Everyone from grandparents to parents to little kids to everyone grows up an Eagles fan, where not everyone necessarily likes the other sports. Like, obviously I'm a Flyers fan, but I don't really pay attention to hockey too much. And, there's some people who hockey is their favorite sport, or even baseball and basketball. I obviously love both the Phillies and the Sixers, but there are some people who, don't love the Phillies or they don't love the Sixers. They do, but they're not really into it. Like my girlfriend, for example, she, and I know a lot of women throughout the area, they love the Eagles. They've always grown up loving the Eagles. They love football. It's her first love of a sport is the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, it's throughout the whole city where, for example, she's not as big into baseball. She loves basketball, but not as much baseball. But the Philadelphia Eagles are the great equalizer across the city, and I think you really see that yesterday. So many people out there. It just means so much more when it's the Eagles, because there's not a single person in the city of Philadelphia just about, that they don't like the Eagles or they don't watch the games every single Sunday. And it's unlike anything else. I heard something on the radio a couple of weeks back, and it's kind of saving to say it until a day like today, but across America, there's so many different cities, and obviously living here down in Orlando is one of the most prime examples of it, where there's obviously not a football team here, but there's other sports teams here, and there's not that many like diehard, Magic fans, or everyone around here is always wearing different stuff. Everyone's from another place, and the city of Philadelphia has the most Eagles fans, per person in their city of every other city in the country. Obviously it's going to be different because some cities have multiple sports teams like New York or Los Angeles or whatever it is, but it's just different in Philadelphia. It's special in Philadelphia. Just about everyone in Philadelphia grows up to be loving the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think that's what makes days like yesterday so special.
Yeah, I mean, it is a special feeling when, there's a lot of division. I feel like in wherever you are in the world, there's always going to be some sort of division. But in Philadelphia yesterday, and for any sport, we're all able to come together as one. And yesterday, we all came together as Eagles fans, and we were all family. We all loved each other. And, I was talking to people I've never seen before yesterday. I will never see them again. But, we all just came together as one, and as an Eagles fan. And that's the special thing of sports. There's so much division and hate and everything that goes on in everyday life. But we're all able to sit down on a 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night and watch the Phillies, the Sixers, and the Flyers. And then on Sundays at 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock or 8 o'clock, we watch the Eagles. We all come together as one. And that's what is really so special about sports, and is really that separation that we're able to get. And it was on full display, I think, in Philadelphia on Friday afternoon and morning.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing thing. And, seeing all the pictures and the videos and, people just like hugging each other and stuff like that. It's awesome. It brings so many people together, and it even when coming back to like 2022, and obviously I lived there and stuff like that, you just walk around and the whole run, you just see people, everyone's wearing Eagles gear and everyone's saying go birds to each other and stuff like that. So it's an awesome thing, and I'm glad that everyone was able to celebrate this awesome team yesterday.
There's no city that's better when their sports teams are good than Philadelphia. I'll tell you, Philly, even if the Union are going on a run and nobody else is doing well, everyone's like, yeah, go Union and poop or whatever. So
I think so much about 2010 with the Flyers. Like I said, I like the Flyers and stuff like that. I've been to a few games, but I'm not somebody who's going to watch every single Flyers game every single night, like some people are. But look back to 2010, the whole city was orange. I had a Flyers t-shirt. Everyone was up watching all those games, all that kind of stuff. So, whenever these teams are in it, everyone goes all in, and it's an awesome thing.
The man that made it all happen yesterday was Howie Roseman, and he is the guy that kind of built this team, and he's been the man. And well, he took a beer bottle to the Dome, and that is an iconic picture that needs to be hung up in the art museum. That is a piece of art. Whoever took this picture, it is beautiful. You can see his gash on his forehead and everything, and he said, "I bleed for the city." The video came out today. Earlier today of the beer can that he took to the Dome, and this is just like electric. And as the legend of Howie Roseman kind of goes around, I think this picture.
Yeah, he's somebody who I think with last Sunday's victory has cemented himself as a Hall of Fame general manager. To be to 3 Super Bowls and to win 2 of them. He's just done obviously such an amazing job building this team. And, after 2020, there was a lot of doubters, myself included. I didn't know if he'd be able to turn it around with, all the draft mistakes that he was making. Obviously, everyone knows Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson, but, you looked at this team and there just wasn't really a lot of young talent. And, something after that season switched in him, and his draft picks since then have been, fantastic. I remember back in 2020, or maybe it was even 2021, that the Eagles hadn't drafted a Pro Bowler since I believe it was Lane Johnson or Carson Wentz, but obviously he had that one season, but it was like Carson Wentz and Lane Johnson, that was it. And now, if you look at these draft picks, Jordan Mailata, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Cam Jurgens, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, like these guys that are just these homegrown talents. And then obviously he's done a great job in free agency, being able to add with trades as well to this team. With you go back as far as even Darius Slay was a trade. AJ Brown, we all know, Saquon Barkley, Mekhi Becton, Zach Vaughn. These guys that he's brought in CJGJ, obviously a trade and then brought back in. He's just on an all-time heater right now. And I think the biggest thing with him is that he's figured out how to draft. And I think it started with just him not overthinking it. Sometimes these guys get into the draft and they fall in love with these guys and, but then there's always going to be something that pops up and then they overthink it. And he's not been overthinking it now. He's taken the best player available when they have been there. He's jumped up to get guys who have fallen, like Cooper last year in the draft. Again, with Jalen Carter 2 years ago in the draft, he jumped up to get him. So he's just been an amazing GM over the last couple of years. Like I said, I think he's cemented himself as a Hall of Famer, and I can't wait till the Eagles make some big moves in about 3 weeks in free agency. And this picture is going viral again after it says the Eagles have, traded from Myles Garrett or whatever it is. So this is definitely a picture that'll live in all time. That's an amazing photo.
Yeah, this needs to be hung up in the link, I think. Just hang it up like a wall. Just put an entire wall and just put this picture of Howie Roseman. Is there any executive, any person in Philadelphia sports history that has brought in more wins and just been more of a winner and than Howie Roseman has been? Like, is there anybody you can think of, player, coach, executive, like first to mind? Like, I think, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to think of it on the spot. Obviously, we're, on the younger side, so we don't really know anything before. Or me, I don't know anything before like 2000. But I'll say recent memory, definitely not, especially because what a lot of people don't realize is he's been with the Eagles for so long. I believe he's right around 20 years with the Eagles. I'm not sure on the exact amount of years, but I mean, he goes back to the Andy Reid days. He obviously wasn't the GM and making the draft picks back then, but just his impact in the organization has gone back so far. So if you take into account, all the wins and all the players and all that kind of stuff from all the days that he's worked for the team, I mean, he might be at the top.
Howie Roseman was hired as an intern with the Eagles in 2000, and he became the general manager in 2019. Kind of a rough start for him as the general manager. Not great draft picks. And if you remember, that Jalen Hurts pick was kind of a bad pick, we thought at the time, but obviously it ended up bringing in a Super Bowl champion.
Yeah. I mean, looking back at that.
You think of other coach. I mean, you think my mind goes to David Montgomery with the Phillies in the 2000s and his development with those guys, Utley, Howard, Rollins, Cole Hamels, and everything. I think of Fred Shiro of the 1970 Flyers. That coach, he was legendary. And there's a lot of other names you can kind of go to. I mean, I don't know.
The 86ers as well. Obviously those
but
guys had some great teams back then.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of guys out there. Not many, as we, as not as many as like. And I mean, the 60s Sixers as well with Wilt Chamberlain and Billy Cunningham and Hal Greer. Like, those are some great teams as well. Yeah. The Eagles from the 40s and back to back. So there's a lot out there. All right, speeches. So we can wrap up this for the parade talk. There's never going to be a speech like Jason Kelce. People's expectations were way too high. But what was your favorite speech from yesterday?
Yeah, so I thought there were some good ones. I loved Jordan Mailata getting up there and having the crowd sing "We Are the Champions" with him. I thought that was very much to him, very personal to him because of his singing ability. But I just thought it was pretty creative. AJ Brown, I loved his speech because, I think he gets put in such a bad light sometimes just because he is so competitive. And I loved how he said, you can get all these things wrong about me, about him being a diva and only caring about stats and stuff like that. But, he's a champion and that's something we can never take away from him. But at the end of the day, my favorite speech was Jalen. And I liked how he kind of took command. And then at the end, he kind of paused a little bit, almost like he was done. And then he was like, no, I have a little bit more to say when he kind of talked about, Nick, over the offseason. That was the big thing, is that he was not, there was rumors that him and Nick were not on the same page. So I thought that it was really nice to see him, intentionally thank Nick Sirianni up there on the podium. And I think, if you watch any of the mic'd up stuff, you can kind of see of them kind of at the end of the game going up to each other and hugging each other. So I thought that was obviously huge. But I just thought the quote of the day, it was so cool when Jalen talked about how when he was drafted here, that he never wanted to go to the Rocky Steps and never had been to the Rocky Steps because he was saving that for a parade. and now we're here. I just think, his mentality as a quarterback and as a player is very rare. It's, you know it because you can only think of a few players who have it. Those Jordan, Kobe, that kind of mentality that everyone wants to strive for, and I think Jalen has it. And I just love that. I love that he said that. I love that that's been his mentality. I love that he's done that. And I just think it's such a cool quote, saying that you've never been to the art museum steps because you were saving up for a parade. That's just something that I think will live forever. And I just love that quote.
I told myself that when I got drafted, that I wouldn't come to the Rocky Steps until I won a championship. And now we're here.
It just he's so cool. Like everything he does, it's just awesome. I think my favorite speech, I don't know, there were a lot of good ones, but none that were great. I did CJ Gardner-Johnson's, he does the whole BTA thing. That was kind of a little bit too much. But when he said, when he left Philadelphia, he cried. And it was just kind of, because you all remember, when he left, the whole money thing that he picked the lines for less money, whatever, and all that crazy stuff that happened. And seemed like he was kind of going out after Philadelphia, but really he missed it so much. And he said he cried and everything. And now he's back. And, he goes from losing the Super Bowl with the Eagles, losing the NFC Championship game with the Lions last year, to now winning a Super Bowl. And he does it with the Eagles, and it's really where he should be. I thought that was kind of cool from CJGJ. I also liked Landon Dickerson, who kind of got as close to Jason Kelce as you can without being Jason Kelce. He kind of named every county in the Philadelphia area, which I thought was kind of funny. So there were some good ones, but I was really looking for BG to, hopefully give us some sort of announcement if he was playing or not next year. He didn't, and I respect it. You want to savor this moment. They put both Lombardis next to him. I thought that was a great image. So, now we go into the question, will Brandon Graham be a Philadelphia Eagle, or will he be retired in the 2025-26 NFL season? What do you think? Should he return? Of course he should, but will he? And, what's going to happen with Brandon Graham?
Yeah, so first I want to say I agree with you about him not making an announcement on stage. There was some reporting out there that he was going to make an announcement, which first off, I don't like that. I think that, there's a certain integrity that you should take as a journalist or as a writer or as whatever it is, where, if you get information, you saw this last year with Jason Kelce's retirement, where it was leaked and Jason didn't have the opportunity to give that announcement himself. There's certain things that you need to, hold, because you need to hold it out of respect to the player. So I didn't like that was out there. But I also like that Brandon Graham didn't give an announcement yesterday. I think, you don't want to make a Super Bowl parade about yourself. And I like that he did not do that. So I think it just shows even more of how great of a guy Brandon Graham is to, not make an announcement about himself during what is a team, event. And I'm going to say something here that's going to be unpopular, but I think Brandon Graham should retire. There's no other way to go out there's no other better way to go out than on top. I think if you just want to encapsulate Brandon Graham's career, it was that moment at the Art Museum yesterday with both the Lombardi trophies in front of him. We haven't gotten the picture of that out yet, which I'm assuming they're waiting for his retirement to release that picture. But we all love BG. Obviously, I'd be extremely happy if he comes back and plays next year. But I just think, all the work he did to put in to come back into this game, and to do all that hard work to get back. Yeah, exactly. There you go. I think he should just go out on top. Jason obviously gave it one more year. It ended up not being a good game, and then having to, see him crying on the sidelines against Tampa after a blowout in the first round. I don't want that for BG. I want BG to walk out into the sunset as a two-time Super Bowl champion. It's such a rare class to be in as a Philadelphia athlete, to be a two-time champion. And I really hope he just walks off into the sunset on top of the world.
I mean, there's only a few guys you can name that are two-time champions. Of course, you got pretty much the whole 74-75 Flyers team kind of stayed over and won back-to-back then. The 40s Eagles, I don't know if I can name you any of the guys on that team anyway. And then you got Brandon Graham, Landon Dickerson, Rick Lovato, Jake Elliott, and Big Dom. Like, that's really all you got.
Lane Johnson, you mean? Lane
Johnson, of course. I can't believe I just didn't name Lane Johnson. But there's really not many guys that you can, with the Eagles especially, that you can name as two-time champions. I mean, we're even throwing in the security guard if we need an extra name in Big Dom. But, I mean, I agree with you. Like, there's no better way to go out than, this picture. Like, this is the ultimate, picture. And, I'm waiting
obviously, if it comes out that BG's coming back for another year, I'd obviously be very happy about that. He played really well this year. He really did. Before the injury, he was playing really, really well, and he could definitely help the team next year. And, I think I don't know if anyone, or if you had the chance to, or if anyone has had the chance to watch them Mic'd Up, but if you haven't, you definitely should. But just seeing his leadership and, some of the guys after the game, like Nolan Smith and, Jalen Carter, talking about how much BG means to them. So obviously all of that would be very positive if he came back. But just for him personally, I would just love for him to, go out with that picture, two-time Super Bowl champ, and leave on top.
All right. Well, is this the new norm? Are we going to be having a parade every couple years now? Is there a dynasty on the horizon? We'll get more into more into the future of the Eagles soon. But should we be getting used to parades down Broad Street?
Yeah, the new norm obviously doesn't have a great connotation just because Doug Peterson was fired a few years after that Super Bowl. But after being to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, it's hard to say that, this team is not set up and doesn't have the potential to be a dynasty. I'm not going to come out here and say that they definitely will, because anything can happen. And they're so rare. There's so few dynasties, out there in the NFL. But, this team has already done things that just about no team has ever done. Jalen being the first quarterback to get back to a Super Bowl since Jim Kelly after losing his first one, and then the first one to actually win it. He's the first quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl rematch. He, obviously of a quarterback that lost the first one. So this team's already doing things that no other team in NFL history has done. They're set up extremely well for the future. And, the Chiefs, everyone thinks of them as a dynasty. If you look at their first 5 years with Patrick Mahomes, they're the exact same as the Eagles, 1-1 in the Super Bowl. They obviously had some more NFC championship games in there instead of losing in the first round like we did. But at the end of the day, 1-1 Super Bowls after 5 years, the Eagles are definitely set up really well. And if you look in the NFC, who's really there that you're scared of? Obviously Jaden Daniels of Washington, but we'll see how he goes into year 2. So many times we see players in year 1 have great years and then struggle in year 2. So we'll see how they are. The Lions losing both coordinators. 49ers are on the downfall. They're, might even cut Tebow Samuel. Cowboys, come on. So, there's an open window here for the Eagles to dominate the NFC like they have over the last couple of years. And yeah, this definitely could be something that we could be getting used to here a little bit.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. And well, the Eagles season is over, but Phillies opening day is about a month and a half away. Flyers are still playing. Sixers are still playing. Union get their season going. And, there's concerts and comedy shows all around going out. So, there's always stuff to buy. There's always stuff to go to. And why not buy your tickets on SeatGeek? The easiest and most efficient way to buy your tickets. Each seat is given a green, red, or yellow dot indicating whether purchasing that ticket would be a good, bad, or fair deal. If you use code Philly Sports Report, you can save $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. Again, code Philly Sports Report for $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. All right, let's talk about Super Bowl 59, Eagles, Chiefs. The Eagles, CJ Gardner-Johnson said they gave BTA to the Chiefs 40-22. It was really 40-6 before the Eagles kind of stopped playing and the Chiefs went down the field, blah, 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 blah. So if you really want a real score, it's 40-6. And that is about as dominant as you can get. And I think the biggest story for me is Two guys on the Eagles that have been doubted since they came to Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. Their narratives have changed. They are both Super Bowl champions, and especially Jalen Hurts, who played his tail off in the Super Bowl, is the Super Bowl MVP. He did it with his arm. Saquon got shut down, and Jalen Hurts won the Eagles the game, which was the big question all playoffs, all year, and he answered the question. And he went, he was benched in the national championship, drafted by the Eagles out of nowhere when they already had Carson Wentz, fell short in his first Super Bowl after outplaying Mahomes, faced adversity with all this crap he heard from the media and the collapse last year, and now he finally is the Super Bowl MVP, and he is 26 years old. And he's done all this in just a few years with the Eagles. And Nick Sirianni, from flowers blossoming and getting flowers thrown at him, to Super Bowl champion. These two guys have been batted down, knocked around by fans and media since their origins here in Philadelphia, and now they're Super Bowl champions. How does their narrative change now?
Yeah, it changes completely. Starting with Jalen, that was the question all year long. I had it. So many people had that question of, if Saquon gets shut down, can Jalen throw them to a win, especially on the biggest stage? And, he proved to us that he can do it. These last two games, the NFC Championship game, obviously Saquon was a big factor in that, but he was still great in the passing game. And then the Super Bowl, I don't know what clicked. I don't know what happened over those two games, but Jalen looked like the 2022 version of himself. I think something that's so big for Jalen too is his running game. I talked about it all year about how that's my favorite trait of his, is being able to pick up big first downs in the running game. And I think you saw that in the Super Bowl, so many times, especially late when they were trying to put the game away. He just had some back-breaking runs to pick up first downs. And, it was just awesome to watch. Jalen is somebody who, quite honestly, in my opinion, didn't play all too well during the regular season at times. He had some games where he wasn't really throwing the ball well. The Eagles took the ball out of his hands for the most part. Remember in the beginning of the season where there was that stat going around that over the last 2 years, he had led the league in turnovers. And obviously he had an interception in the Super Bowl, but besides that, he really cleaned it up throughout the whole season with the turnovers after that bye week. So for him to kind of turn his season around and play the two best games of his season in the two biggest games that matter, there's no more questioning him. I think even next year, if he struggles at times, we just have to trust that he will get it right when it matters. So many times he has done that. He did it in the Super Bowl 2 years ago when they lost. Obviously the fumble was a big mistake, but besides that, he played a fantastic game then as well. So I think he's just somebody that we have to trust, that even if, during the regular season, it might not look how we want it to look. And I think it's okay to say that. I think people who were not okay saying that, it wasn't how we wanted it to look all season. And that's okay, because we know what's in there. You see how well this offense played. 95 points between the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship game. And, this is the height of what this offense can be when Jalen is throwing the ball like we all know that he can do now. So it's definitely going to be something to watch going into next season, is if they can replicate these games a little bit more. Obviously 14-3 and winning a Super Bowl is as good as it can get, but this offense has unlimited potential when he is playing like that. And hopefully he can bring it over into next year and keep his good play going. But from his standpoint, there's no more doubting him. He's done everything he needed to do this year to win games. I think that sometimes can get a little bit annoying to hear that he's always a winner without actually winning anything. But now he's a winner. That is a trait of his, because he's brought that Lombardi trophy back, and really happy that he's our quarterback. And then, like you said, he's only 26 years old. And then Nick, I've always been somebody who has defended Nick. I think that he got a very unfair rap in this city just because of a first impression. And I can say, hopefully now that first impression is gone, because with the amount of things that he's done for this team, and I think the biggest thing that you see with Nick is, you look at if you watch the mic'd up again, I think everyone should, because I think it gives such a good insight into this team. But at the podium, before the games, after the games, during the game, and the mic'd up, they are parrots of Nick Sirianni. Be where your feet are. We can't be great without the greatness of others. All these things that he's instilled in this team that the leaders echo. I think it just shows how much they love him. So many players after the game came up to him crying and hugging him, telling him how much they love him. Thank you for believing in me, all this kind of stuff. And, he might not be the greatest X's and O coach out there. He might not call the plays, but he definitely is a great head football coach. And, I'm really excited for him. He's obviously going to get a huge contract this offseason. And, they're now two guys who go down as, in my opinion, the best head coach and quarterback in franchise history.
Yeah, I'm already ready to clip. There is one quarterback and head coach duo to go to multiple Super Bowls in Eagles' career, and only two have won. Only two head coach and quarterback duos have won the Super Bowl. One of those was a backup quarterback. Now we have Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni, 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. They haven't missed the playoffs, but since they've been together, they have turned the Eagles into one of the greatest organizations in NFL history, one of the most prestigious. Are we ready to declare Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts the best coach and the best quarterback in Philadelphia Eagles history?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, especially those who grew up, with Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb, might say that this is recency bias, but I grew up with those guys. Andy Reid, Donovan McNabb, T.O., all those guys are the reason that I'm an Eagles fan and not a New York Giants fan. But at the end of the day, like you said, there's only one guy at each of those spots who has been to 2 Super Bowls or multiple Super Bowls, and then there are only one of 2 who have won. And I think obviously, it's hard. When you look back at Andy and Donovan, they had so much success, right? All those NFC championship games and all those wins and the longevity. And, the Eagles are who they are because of Andy Reid and his installation of, build in the trenches and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, those guys are always going to be remembered for not getting it done, losing all those NFC championship games, losing in the Super Bowl. Those guys never got it done. And now Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts have not only been there, but now they've been there and they've won it. They got it done. So, I think some people will have some pushback. There's going to be some people who will say, well, they need to do it for longer and all that kind of stuff. But I am ready to give it to them right now, just because they won the Super Bowl, something those guys never did. And they've been to another one, 2-0 in NFC championship games. And, definitely by the end of their careers, they'll go down as the best head coach and quarterback duo, definitely. You just look at Nick Sirianni's win percentage since he's got here. He's winning. Obviously Jalen is in that too. They're winning at a 70% clip. In their first 4 years as the head coach, there's only 3 other guys who have ever done that, and all of them are Hall of Famers. So for the fact that they have done what they've done since coming here, and now with the Super Bowl, Super Bowl trophy that they've taken home, I don't know how you can't say they're not the best quarterback and the best head coach in franchise history.
Love Hurts, baby. Love Hurts. All right. This defense has been great all year, and they stayed great in the Super Bowl. From top to bottom, 0 blitzes, 6 sacks. Cooper DeJean, pick 6. Zach Bond, interception. They were flying high like eagles, and well, they are Eagles on Sunday night. And what was the most impressive thing? I look at those 0 blitzes and 6 sacks, that's only happened 4 times. That's incredible.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. I think that's definitely the most impressive thing, because it's only happened 4 times since they've started to keep track of that. That there's been 0 blitzes, and I believe 5 or more sacks in a game. It's insane. The pressure the Eagles defensive line was able to put on the Chiefs. That was the big matchup coming into the game, moving their left guard out to tackle and then putting in a backup guard there was, were these guys going to be able to dominate? And I think something that Vic Fangio did that I loved was he didn't move Jalen Carter around much. He trusted that Milton Williams was going to win inside. He trusted that Jordan Davis was going to win inside. Jordan Davis with a sack in the Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? Obviously Milton Williams dominated Mike Caliendo, and he trusted that that Josh Sweat was going to win against Joe Tooney on the outside, and Josh Sweat and Nolan Smith, Nolan Smith was going to win against Joe Tooney on the outside along with Josh Sweat, and those guys just dominated. And Jalen Carter, I think, is a underrated player from this game because they had to double team him. You look at some of these plays, and he's getting double teamed, leaving these guys one-on-one because there's no way that these guys get the amount of pressure they have just rushing four without all the attention put on Jalen Carter. Obviously, he has the picture that will live in infamy or live forever with double hand fist in Patrick Mahomes in the head. But even Jalix Hunt, got a sack in there. He played great. Just the whole defensive line was absolutely outstanding. Some of these guys made themselves a lot of money on Sunday. And, after the Super Bowl 2 years ago with obviously the wet field and the slipping and Hassan Reddick slipping everywhere and stuff like that, this was a big thing for the Eagles to get back. You heard, again, I feel like I'm giving a free commercial for the Mic'd Up, but in the Mic'd Up, Nick Sirianni and Brandon Graham talk about how they got 6 sacks today, and there's going to be no T-shirts this time, and that's a reference back to the Chiefs offensive line wearing a shirt at the parade with 0 on it because the Eagles got 0 sacks. There wasn't no slippery field this time, and the defensive line absolutely dominated.
Yeah, they sure did. You mentioned Josh Sweat, and man, you want to talk about making some money. Josh Sweat made himself some money. 6 total tackles, 2.5 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, 2 tackles for a loss. It felt like this postseason, you really weren't getting much from Josh Sweat, and when he needed to step up most, he sure did. He's a free agent. He got a new agency a few weeks ago going into his free agency. Will Josh Sweat return to the Eagles? Would you like to see him return to the Eagles? Is it possible he returns to the Eagles?
Yeah, so I think, obviously it's all about money. Howie, I believe, can do anything when it comes to the cap. And, Jeffrey Lurie's going to keep handing out those big signing bonuses so the Eagles can keep the cap numbers as low as they can. Obviously I'd like to see him back. For him to show up in the biggest game of his career like that, I mean, it's hard not to want the guy back. There is some talk about how there's a pretty elite edge rusher out there who requested a trade and apparently would love to come to Philadelphia. So we'll see if Howie has something up his sleeve for that, and in Myles Garrett. But obviously that's no guarantee. Obviously, so obviously I'd like him back. I think it's going to be interesting to see how much money he gets. I think a big thing is the rise of Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith. He talked about how we hadn't really seen Josh Sweat a lot in the playoffs. This has been the playoffs of Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith was dominant against, Green Bay and the Rams and then Washington. So I feel comfortable with that. But obviously, if we're losing BG and Sweat, we're going to need some other guys out there on the outside. So hopefully they can get him back. Hopefully, if not, the Eagles can make a move. But I think I'm a little bit worried about him coming back.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Sweat was rocking the Chris Long fur jacket at the parade, which has become, that's become legendary. I feel like you got to have a different guy wearing the fur jacket every single parade now. So
got to stay on the D-line. The D-line.
I would like to see maybe next year Big Milt Williams rocking the fur coat. I think that'd be funny. But so we'll see if Josh Sweat returns. And that Cooper DeJean pick 6, it felt like it kind of just ended the game. Like the game was, it was 17-0. And that was kind of the dagger in the first half. Such a great moment for Cooper on his birthday and really made him a Philadelphia legend in his first season with the Eagles. Was that the moment of the Super Bowl? Like 7 years ago, we look back and we watched the Philly special, and that is the moment, the BG strip sack. Will we, that pick 6 from Coop and also that touchdown to Devontae Smith, will those be the resigning moments of Super Bowl 59 that we will always look back on forever?
Yeah, definitely. I think the Cooper DeJean interception was just kind of the moment that everyone realized, like, oh my God, we might actually win this Super Bowl. We're kind of kicking their butts a little bit. That was definitely the moment that got the biggest reaction of our party here. Everyone's running, go Coop, go Coop, go Coop. That was awesome. He has, as a rookie, come in and become a Philadelphia legend already. When you make the biggest play in the Super Bowl, you're going to be immortalized forever. And I guarantee there's going to be some babies out there named Cooper coming up this summer. But yeah, I think that has to be the play of the Super Bowl. It's definitely the play that realized that we're kicking their butts a little bit here. And I think that was the moment that all of us kind of realized, wow, we actually might be winning this thing. And then the Vontae call and play, I loved it. I loved going for the kill there. Obviously, a great throw by Jalen. And what's amazing about that play is you watch the replay. Devontae Smith is like gliding, and the quarterback for the Chiefs is running as fast as he can. It looks like he's running away from a bear, how fast he's running. And Devontae Smith doesn't look like he's breaking a sweat as he pulls away from him. Great throw, great play call. I loved it. And, I think when we look back at the Super Bowl, those will definitely be the two that we look at as like the ones that stick out in our mind.
I guess I'll have to add those to the intro video for the Philly Sports Hour. Gotta do some editing there. All right. Kellen Moore is officially not leaving New Orleans. Of course, he was at the parade yesterday, but he's flying back to New Orleans. He is the next head coach of the New Orleans Saints, which we all kind of expected to happen. So now the Eagles look for their 9th offensive coordinator in 10 years, which is the craziest thing that I think I have ever heard. But if you had like one or two guys, who are you looking at?
Yeah, so I think Kevin Patula, the Eagles passing game coordinator, is definitely the hot guy right now. I think it's a little nerve-wracking that no one has wanted to pluck him. I think that he's someone that another team would be looking at to make their offensive coordinator, but the fact that that hasn't happened yet definitely gives me some pause. I think another thing with him that could be a negative is we've seen so many times with the Eagles in the past of them promoting from within, and the offense just kind of stays stale, and then it's not really great. Brian Johnson, we look at him, a couple of years ago with Doug Peterson wanting to promote from within. So I think it's always good to get an outside view. Obviously the Eagles are going to do what they do. They're going to run the ball with Saquon. They're going to let Jalen make plays with his arm and with his legs, and it's not going to change too much. But I would love to have somebody from the outside kind of be able to bring in some fresh ideas. Not that Kevin Patula wouldn't have fresh ideas, but I think if you always need to be changing and evolving, and I think with this opportunity, it's something to do that. But at the same time, you always bring somebody in and his offense doesn't work. So there's been Frank Reich floated around. I don't know. Obviously, I'd be happy, I guess, if Frank came back, but I don't love it. I kind of would want somebody with like fresher, newer ideas. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be Kevin.
All right. Speaking Kellen Moore, obviously former Cowboy, now current Cowboy, Dak Prescott thinks that Dallas is close to the Eagles. What?
On that level. I feel like we compete with the Eagles and beat them for the most part when we played them. I don't want to say check the record when they're the guys holding the trophy right now. So credit to them. They've earned it and they deserved it by all means. But yeah, very close, especially even watch the NFC game, the NFC Championship. And those two teams that we battle against each and every year, a couple of times. And as I said, feel confident about we've gotten the better part each and every time. To see them, to see it in such a dominating fashion, credit to them. It's our turn and it's on us. All right.
Yeah, kind of bizarre. Like, what is this dude talking about?
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys definitely aren't close to winning a Super Bowl. I don't know. They just, like, yeah, they, sometimes we split with them and all that kind of stuff, but over the last however many years, we have way more success than they have had. So, I mean, I get he's not gonna, say, oh, we're super far away from winning a Super Bowl, but there's definitely a different way to answer it than we're right there.
Yeah, kind of strange. All right, let's wrap up the Eagles talk. Yeah, let's wrap it up. All right, I put out a thing. I've said it twice now: NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. Welcome to the golden age of Eagles football. If you look at it, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Jordan Davis, Mekhi Becton, Reed Blankenship, Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, and Cam Jurgens are all 26 or younger. the average age of this team is like 27 and a half years old. This team is set up to be good now and for a long time. You look back at the golden age, you kind of mentioned it earlier. It was Andy Reid and Donovan McNabb in the early 2000s. 4 straight NFC Championship games, a few of them at the Vet, going to the Super Bowl. I guess one of them technically at the Link, whatever. Is the golden age of the NFL of Eagles football now the 2020s with Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts? Are we ready to enter the golden age and put our cap on and say welcome to what we're going to forever look back on? Like we always look back on the late 2000s Phillies, always look back on the 70s Flyers. Are we always going to look back on the Eagles from the 2020s?
Yeah, I think you could start looking at the golden age of Eagles football back in 2017. You know, it's a weird little thing because it's been a different head coach and quarterback, but the Eagles have won 2 Super Bowls in the last 8 years, you know, so I don't know how long you want to define it. If you want to define it as a decade, then I think we are definitely entering that, you know, just to be in 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. It's something that the teams from the 2000s never did. And then obviously to win one is something from the 2000s never did as well. So like you said, this team is extremely young. They have the youngest defense in the NFL while being the number 1 defense in the NFL. And, you know, when you look at the biggest playmakers on this team, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Jalen Hurts, you know, that's the core that can keep you going for a long, long time. And they are all super young. And even Saquon's not that old. He's only 28. And as we saw, he's still pretty fresh. You know, we'll see how he is next year. But, you know, going forward, this offensive line is pretty young outside of Lane Johnson. And when you look at some of these guys that they've drafted, you know, they turned Jason Kelce and Fletcher Cox retiring into 2 Pro Bowlers. The next year is insane. So I definitely think that we're currently in the golden age of Eagles football. You know, those teams in the 2000s are something we'll always look back on. And, you know, that's kind of what we always navigate to think of the golden age of Eagles football. But right now we're in it, you know, 2 Super Bowls, 1 win, hopefully a lot more wins to come. And like I said in the beginning, this team, this era is doing things that those teams never did. So it's impossible not to look at them as the golden age.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. I'm ready to enter it. I guess we're already foot is in the door, and you know, if you want to get your foot in the door on some great Eagles Super Bowl gear, go to FOCO, man. They got the baubles. They got the Eagles Super Bowl championship overalls. I know Sam's interested in some of those Super Bowl championship overalls. All right. Real fans need the best gear. FOCO's got it. Click on the link in the description or the bio. You'll save 10% off any in-stock items at FOCO. The bobbleheads, the overalls, everything is over at FOCO. And, of course, they do a lot of stuff with the Phillies, so you can make sure you can definitely get some Phil stuff as well as we get ready for them. So make sure to go check out FOCO. Thank you them for sponsoring.
FOCO released this hat. Last Super Bowl, I bought 2 Eagles hats when they won the Super Bowl. One that I wear, one that I keep as a keepsake, and the one that FOCO dropped. You know, it might take a little bit of the time to get here because I know, you know, a lot of stuff is busy right now. But the FOCO dropped a very nice Eagles hat, Super Bowl champions, that will probably be my wear hat, and then this one will probably become my keep as a keepsake. So definitely excited to get that one in. It's a really nice hat.
Yeah, they got great stuff over there, so go check that out. All right. 76ers. We're going from a high. We go from a high to a low very quickly. Let's talk about the Sixers quickly before we overclips the hour.
Yeah.
The 2 stars on this team, Joel Embiid and Paul George. We'll start with Joel. He told Lisa Salters that he believes he'll need another surgery and a long recovery to get his knee right. Well, we never heard that from the Sixers. We thought it was perfectly fine. And then Shams reported on ESPN that Paul George has gotten injections to play and compete over the last 4 or 5 games in the Sixers. Well, I don't think they've won any of those games where he's getting injections. He scored 2 points in the final game. Played 37 minutes against the Brooklyn Nets. Everybody, he scored 2 points against the Nets. These are problems.
Yeah, I mean, they're a disaster. And my thing is just why? You know, why is Joel Embiid not having the surgery right now? This team is going absolutely nowhere. The fact that Joel Embiid needs another surgery and he's had a long recovery time, if Daryl Morey and the Sixers front office actually believe that this team can do something next year, one, they're probably crazy, but two, why are you not just shutting Embiid down now, getting the surgery now, and then letting him recover instead of having him play once every 2 weeks? That makes no sense. Even if this team does make the playoffs, they're going to be the 10 seed, so it doesn't really matter at all. And it's a fake, it's a fake playoff appearance. So I would just have Embiid get the surgery he needs now, recover from now until the beginning of next season, and then be ready to go next year. And the same thing with Paul George. I was somebody who did not want Paul George this offseason because he was old, because he was injury prone. And, now, again, he's injured. Obviously, it must suck to play with a finger injury. But if he's having to get injections to play and only score 2 points, why is he playing? I don't understand why the Sixers are not just, I know you're going to ask me this, but I don't understand why they're not just tanking. This team is going absolutely nowhere. Your 2 stars are hurt and not barely playing, or if they are playing, they're not playing very well. Just shut them down. The season is over. Get the surgery. Let Paul George's finger come back and just move on to next year at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm ready to rev up the good old tank, which we haven't revved that up in a while. So it feels good with the Sixers. They're 20-34
on the tankathon.com.
It's 20-34 at the break, 2.5 games out of the play-in. They currently hold the 6th pick in the draft, and they will not have a first-round pick unless they are in the top 6 because they traded our pick. We traded our pick. I don't remember what the exact trade was, but Oklahoma City has it if it's not in the top 6. So, I mean, are we revving up the tank? Are we getting ready to get out of here?
They need to. I mean, you see so many times, in the NFL, especially, so many teams that just play meaningless football and lose out on great players. We still, there's a long way to get to the NBA draft, and we need to see obviously who plays well in the tournament and stuff like that. But there's some good players coming out of the draft this year, and the Sixers have a chance to get into the top 6 of this draft. They have to do it. Getting the 10 seed and losing that pick would be an absolute disaster. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything in the playoffs. They need to just shut it down, let Maxey do his thing while they continue to lose, and just play for next season if that's what you want to do. Personally, I want to get rid of both of these guys. I think, unfortunately, I love Joel Embiid. I think, unfortunately, his body has just failed him. And obviously he has some blame in that as well from how he was taking care of it early in his career. But, I never wanted Paul George to begin with. And now with Joel Embiid's body just breaking down, I would rather just tank, get off these guys in the offseason if you can, take Tyrese Maxey, take Jared McCain, and take one of these top 5 guys in the draft and see what we got. At least it's better than holding on to Joel Embiid until 2028. And, the fact that we signed him to an extension this offseason, knowing that his knee is like this, knowing that he wasn't going to be ready for the season is insane. I'm not a Daryl Morey fan at all, as we all very well know. And I think that his offseason has been a disaster. Obviously, you can never plan for injuries, but Joel Embiid, I'm pretty sure you can plan for his injury. And giving him an extension this offseason was an absolute disaster. And it's not looking good. And if they continue to try and they lose out on this first round pick, it's going to be even more of a disaster.
Yeah, I don't know what you do at that point, but my standpoint with the Sixers is they're not going to care until a new arena is built. I'm going to be honest with you. They're not going to care until they have a new shiny arena in the South Philadelphia complex, and then they'll try and put out a winning product so they can get fans in their building. Because their mindset is trying to get this new arena built, which, they abandoned their Center City plan. Now they're back in South Philadelphia, and, that's what they're looking at. They're not looking at winning basketball. They're looking at a winning football team right now.
Well, and that's the thing. I know we're just about done here, but I think the biggest thing with the Sixers was the fact that Josh Harris was nowhere to be found until the Washington Commanders season was over. As soon as the Commanders season was over, that week later, whatever, he comes in, he has his whole speech to the fans, with the arena and talking about how, we're going to get this season right and blah, blah, blah. He's like the fact that you're not even there and involved in the most disastrous season that this team has had since I don't even remember when, because you're over here with your other organization. Like, it's fine if you want to own multiple organizations, but you can't be an absentee owner in one when their season is going on. Like, he was only with the Commanders. The fact that he comes out and then, Daryl Morey has been nowhere to be found. He hasn't talked about this season at all. I would have loved to hear him, at least give some sort of something about this season. He's been MIA all season long, and oh my God, they're just a complete dumpster fire. And unfortunately, until that arena's built, it's just going to be the same thing.
Well, I guess we're lucky that we have a Super Bowl winning team that we're able to take our minds off of the Sixers. Sam, thank you for coming on. I'll talk to you soon, all right? Go Birds!
All right, go Birds!
All right, let's wrap this up. Thank you to everybody for watching and listening to the Philly Sports Hour here, the Super Bowl Champions edition of the Philly Sports Hour. There were no Philly Sports on for a while. So we got the NBA Post Challenge tonight. We went to that 3-point contest, dunk contest. That's at 8 o'clock. And then 4 nations. This has been fun so far. The 4 nations, the hockey, Finland and Sweden taking on each other at 1 o'clock. And then USA and Canada. Big one at 8 o'clock tonight. So definitely tune in. Definitely pick the U.S. over Canada hockey game over the skills challenge. That's my watch tonight if you need something. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. If you ever miss a live Philly Sports Hour, check it out on wherever you find your podcast. And they always stay up on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at Goldstein and PSR. Go follow Sam at Heine_Sam. PhillySportSports.com is where you can check all of our writing out and everything like that. Go to social media. Now, you might be wondering, what is this dude going to talk about for the next couple of weeks? We're in the dark days of sports. I'll tell you, this is the worst time to be a sports fan. Super Bowl's over. The next month, there is hockey and basketball. And with these 2 teams right now, the Flyers and Sixers, they're not a ton of fun to watch. So, after that, March Madness comes in, and then we got the Phils coming in as well. So we're going to talk about the Flyers and Sixers the next few weeks. We got Philly spring training to talk about as well. So there is stuff to fill in. So don't worry, we are not going anywhere. We appreciate you guys for tuning in all Eagle season. We got more to talk about. Thank you all for watching and listening. I'll see you next week.
Swing and a drive, left field. It's deep. It's gone. Yes! And it is gone. Yes! It is bedlam at the bank.
Look at the doctor. Yes, he's got it. Here he comes. Way back to making his statement slammed up. And the doctor made a sensational play. In front, the front, and they score! And Giroux got it!